少々お待ちくださいませ。Please wait a moment.
May I invite again Mr. René Suhardono, the author, public speaker, and coach, to be the panel discussion moderator for today. Thank you, Mr. René.
ありがとうございます。
Now we want to call for all the panelists that will become the speakers for today.
続きまして4人のパネリストの方をご紹介いたします。
Mr. Sho Ikeda, the partner of Global Brain.
グローバルブレインより池田翔様いらっしゃいますでしょうか。どうぞステージへお上がりくださ
Yeah,
い。
please go to the stage, Mr. Sho. And the second one, Mr. Chandra Firmanto, the managing partner of Indogen Capital.
インドゲンキャピタルよりチャンドラ・フィルマント様お願いいたします。
Mr. Chandra Firmanto to the stage.
Are you busy?
And the next one, Mr. Irvan Kolonas, the founder of AgriAku.
アグリアクよりイルファンコロナス様お願いいたします。
I live in Gandaria, One Park Avenue.
Mr. Irvan to the stage.
You don't have papaya in Botanic.
And the last one, Mr. Takeshi Maeda, the General Manager of New Business Development PT Mitsui, Indonesia.
続いて三井インドネシアより前田隆様お願いいたします。
Please wait a moment to wait for Mr. Chandra Firmanto to the stage.
少々お待ちくださいませ。皆様今のうちにどうぞコーヒーもお取りくださいませ。
Yeah, Mr. Chandra is with us now in the stage, please. Yeah, in the center.
チャ
Thank
ンド
you,
ラ様いらっし
Mr.
ゃいましたのでそろそろ始めたいと思います。
Enjoy the panel discussion, everyone.
皆様どうぞお楽しみくださいませ。
Okay. I guess we're starting. It seems that everybody is still busy. Let's just give a 2 minutes a round of applause so that everybody knows we're up here. 1, 2, 3. More. Okay. I bet the $1 billion deal is being struck now. I can see it there. Okay. Thank you so much. Gentlemen, I'll be your moderator and you can just call me René. Everybody, please feel free to take part. If you have any question, any ideas that you wish to communicate with the panelists. And before we start, I think we should start. I mean, they're having a good time. We should at least pretend that we have a good time as well. Okay, and I would like to start with something silly. How do you observe the people who are coming today? And I think that would give some cultural nuance on how we see how different Japanese and Indonesia. Let's start with something silly. Like myself, I'm wearing batik, a long sleeves batik, if you notice. That the one that Irvan is wearing, if you notice, that's something that's a bit more classy. Okay, that shows that he's on another level. I would wear an outfit just like you. And today, with the exception that they want me to look like someone who is important, so I need to wear this. I just need to understand how cultural play a big role in our interaction between Indonesia and Japan. Probably whoever can start first, what do you think is what is perceived as typical Japanese or typical Indonesian, but may not be true after all? You see, like for today, I think I would observe very interesting interestingly, I can immediately tell who are the Japanese and who are not. At least who are Indonesian. Those who are busy with their laptop, and the laptop definitely is not an Apple laptop. It's definitely and it's a bit it's a bit old, and they've been using it for years. That must be Japanese, because the Indonesian, whenever there's break, the first thing they would do, they would get outside, get coffee, and they're busy with their own gadget, like myself, like this. The Japanese would mostly spend time taking notes, while Indonesian would take mental notes. Do you think it's true? Would you like to start with something silly with what you observe culturally? Let's start with that, Pak Chandra, perhaps. Do you observe something interesting?
Yeah, I actually came quite early. Japanese are very punctual. So they arrive at 12, and then in Indonesia, we put it at 12 because we're afraid that the Indonesian will come at 1. So that's why we put it at 12. And then, that's the problem with the Japanese. Well, the Japanese will come at 12. All right, so that's the problem. Even last night, we had dinner, and then it was very bad traffic like last night, right? Everyone knows that. And then everyone was late. Even me as the host, I was late. I was late by 15 minutes. That's considered to be punctual in Indonesia, okay? Yeah, but late by 15 minutes, but all my Japanese guests already there. So amazing.
So by the time you're here, you readily know everybody who is here first would be Japanese and not Indonesian.
Yeah, I don't even have to see. Those are Japanese.
Definitely.
For sure.
True. Big clap for that. Okay? Indonesia need to learn from Japanese counterpart. Do you observe something else? You've been here how long?
Yeah, I'm here about 4 years or something.
4 years.
Yeah.
So you must have observed a lot. So what can you tell about typical Japanese which may not be true?
Yeah, typical Japanese is unfortunately not flexible.
Not flexible.
Yeah, and compared with the Japanese, Indonesian is really flexible.
Okay.
And, yeah. So I think that's the biggest difference, and sometimes that should become issue for the business collaboration. Yeah, but I think both is good.
Okay. Obviously, both should be good. But let me just comment on that. You're wearing a jeans. You're wearing a T-shirt. This indicates he is at the level of Mark Zuckerberg, at least. Is that true? And that you're relaxed. But you still say, even though in outfit like this, there's some form of inflexibility on the Japanese part. Is that true?
So of course, we, Japanese, including me, is now changing gradually. So yeah, so the result is my outfit.
Okay, are you becoming more flexible after 4 years in Indonesia?
Yes.
And how more flexible are you now, if I may ask?
Yes.
How?
How? Yeah, very difficult. But
Are you no longer punctual like the rest of the Japanese?
but I need to settle in the Indonesian culture.
Okay. You're so kind. Anyway, Irvan, do you have anything to comment with this? Something that you perceive as Indonesian but may not entirely true, or perhaps it is true.
I think in Indonesian culture, we want a lot of autonomy. So we want to make decisions very quickly. I think that's very different, let's say, in Japanese culture, where it's very, you have to ask a lot about permission from Tokyo, for example. I think that in itself, it's both good because, as you expand to different countries.
So that's not a frustration. That's just an open comment.
It's a fact, right?
It's a fact.
The question then is, how do you gel, right? How do you bridge that gap, right? I mean, at the end of the day, everybody has different cultures. There's no right and wrong. It's literally about, okay, that's the culture from this country, that's the culture from this country, and how do you build that bridge, right? How do you make sure that it doesn't affect business relationship or business results in that sense?
Indeed. That's very wise of you. What about you? Ikeda-san?
Well, I think the common elements, what you guys are saying is maybe Japanese tend to be a perfectionist and conservative. So in terms of the punctuality, we tend to be perfectionists in terms of time. And if you talk about flexibility, maybe we want to be a perfect. So we want to try to pursue the point where we don't see any flexibility, right? And that have something to do with the authority issue as well. So I think as a Japanese, I would admit that I'm one of the typical conservative, the perfectionist Japanese. But I would say, even Indonesia, even Japan, we are not just one type, right?
Of course.
We have several different layers of people.
Help us to recognize the difference between the
Okay.
Japanese who are
So
here.
what I found here today is everybody is trying to meet the other party's expectation, meaning
Right.
you meeting with a Japanese in a
Right.
conference, you expect Japanese to wear formal attire. That's why you're wearing something different, right?
That's why I'm wearing this, because I would suspect you would be wearing a black suit with a very dark tie, and yet you're here with that checker shirt. Why is that? Can you care to explain?
I work. Actually, I have to be honest that I'm not specialist in this VC startup. So I normally work for normal business in traditional company. So today I'm expecting everybody's wearing a casual clothes because it's a startup events. So I think if we understand each other better, maybe we can have a sweet spot of each other, I guess.
But you know what? I see that the willingness to bridge this gap is within everyone, and the idea that we wish to respect the other party, so that even force us to dress up differently, like you today, coming from a traditional Japanese corporation, and yet here you are with.
I hope it's acceptable.
Indeed. Well, give a big clap for that. That's not a big clap. I'm serious big clap, if I may have. There you go. I sense the energy of a rock concert today. Okay. Some of you already sleep, but that's okay. We won't disturb you too much. Out of that cultural differences, considering that we need to achieve today, and that is creating an effective ecosystem, other than trying to meet the other party's expectation, do you see any other way that what we can do today collectively, be it a Japanese or an Indonesian? Anyone? Ikeda-san? Or?
Okay, so based on the cultural gap, sometimes Japanese, basically major enterprises need some very long time to think about the business collaboration or something like that. And in addition, they often need or request a perfect plan. So
Somewhat?
perfect plan,
Okay.
very good strategy.
Strategy?
Yeah, in advance.
Okay.
But in my understanding, Indonesian style is different. So yeah, as I told you, Indonesian is basically very flexible guy. So I think that's a matter. But so in my understanding, we need long communication to achieve something between the Japanese and Indonesian. I think that's one element.
Can you give us a time frame, because long is subjective. For me, a year is long, but for my wife, if I'm not answering her call, 5 minutes is long. So how do you define that?
Yeah. So for example, regarding the investment, we need 1 or 2, sometimes 3 months to decide the investment. But I think Indogen will decide 1 week or something.
Yes.
Pak Chandra seems to have a lot of experience in both culture. Perhaps you can share your own experience with regards to this issue of time in terms of making decision.
Yes, I think collaboration or partnership is just like marriage, right? So first you have to know first what will be the very important points for your potential partners.
Is this a marital advice as well? Okay.
Yes.
You better take note, everyone.
Yeah. So the one that with need marital advice probably can take notes as well.
Go ahead.
So first you have to understand first, right? The one that for them is the absolute most important.
What is it?
In the case of Japanese corporations, obviously they have, of course, layer of decision making. So you have to respect that. Okay, so you have to know that you have to allow certain amount of time that they will probably take, and that the best part is Japanese are very honest. So for example, like if I met with any of the Japanese corporations, I will ask them, how long is it going to take? And they will answer you with a time frame that actually very conservative, right? So let's say they will say 6 months. So the best part is they will not go over 6 months.
So 6 months will be 6 months.
6 months will be, sometimes can be 4 months, sometimes can be 3 months.
But
will
definitely not
go
7.
Over 6 months, correct.
All right.
So that is actually workable. I like it because, okay, you need 6 months. That's good. Then the next question you should ask is, what would be the process to speed up matters?
So if you need it faster than 6 months, you need to ask,
Yes.
what else can I do?
Yes, what can I do? What can I
Okay.
help you with? And they will give you the list as well.
Okay.
So it's more about communication, I think. Just like marriage. It's a matter of communication. You have to communicate properly. You have to respect each other's boundaries, right? And then in our case, Indonesians, we like to push things as fast as possible.
Indeed.
That's why we have Gojek. We just Gojek everything, basically, right? While in Japan, if you do have some kind of like food delivery services, they will not survive.
Why is that?
Because Japanese are very diligent. They queue for their own meals. So the queuing at meals, I actually being taught by my Japanese friends, is it's good. It's a culture. So the queue, it's fine. It's okay.
And if that happens here, the queue would be
Oh, no,
filled with
we just
Gojek
We just send
drivers.
Gojek drivers, especially to buy martabak, right?
Okay.
So that's the key, right? So that's why we have to respect one another, I think. And then in the cases, you also have to understand that there is a strength in the reasons why Japanese is actually making long time to decide. For example, from my experience dealing with Yamaha, because I'm distributing Yamaha motorcycles, they are very keen on quality control.
Right.
They will make sure that the product has been tested by absolutely every mean possible before actually the product being released.
Right.
And that's creating quality. The quality with the brand. And then eventually that's why we love Japanese products. All of us here love Japanese products because of the quality of the products. So there is a pro and cons, obviously. But we cannot just always pick apart, only picking on the cons. We have to pay attention to what we can actually do, that we know the limitations, and work around it.
Sounds amazing. Maeda-san, since you're coming from very, how should I say, Mitsui is a really big organization. I cannot imagine the layers that you need to go through. And do you care to affirm and confirm what Chandra was saying? Elaborate more, perhaps.
Yes, I think I agree with him. And maybe I have to tell that the situation might be different from one Japanese company to another. So, for example, I have so many, the same industry friends here. So in my case, Mitsui and Co., we are starting from a traditional trading company, but the industry coverage is very wide, from oil and coal to pretty much consumer business like retailers. It's totally different business model, and we are having a kind of core common decision-making process which we have to go through. So I think the key decision-making points, if we want to make it common for all of the different industry, that's going to make it really kind of abstractive level, right? So that is one of my kind of difficulties I have when I want to get approval for startup business. For example, if I have a chance to invest in a alternative protein. Alternative protein.
Alternative protein,
yeah, protein, right? Which uses the plant protein to manufacture or mayonnaise or some other animal-based protein products in US. But that is really hard for me to convince the management because like Ikeda-san said, management want to see what is your projection in the 5 years, and we don't know what's going to happen in the 5 years.
It's new. It has
right?
It has not been started. Yeah.
Through this process, traditional company like us also trying to adjust ourselves to have a different decision-making process, but still we are coming from traditional, projection and what is the risk. The startup and the traditional company, the risk preference is also different, right? We tend to be perfectionist in that sense. So I think, the traditional way tends to take more time, but we are trying to have a different decision-making process. But I would say it's still on the way.
Okay, I'm asking you on behalf of the Indonesian startup here, how to gauge on the level of interest from Japanese corporation. Is this the real thing? Because I mean, forgive me for saying this. It's whether you're interested, half interested, fully interested. You don't look that much different. Well, we can see in Irvan's, he was laughing all the way, right? And he would be so interested in everything. Well, the Japanese don't hardly show emotion. So how do we? You can laugh about it, but that's true, right? How do we gauge on that, whether it's a genuine interest, or should I do something else?
So your question is more like the sentiment or interest level. How do you interpret from the appearance or the
Yes.
actions?
Yes.
Well, of course, from a Japanese point of view, we are trying to show that, which you don't notice.
True.
Right?
That's
So-
what. Please give us a clue.
I think I have to ask Ikeda-san as well, but maybe you should ask questions to test, the interest level. What is the expected process in your company, and how much kind of proceeds you are focusing for these projects? I think that kind of question is
That's
good
okay.
enough. And I think you might feel like it's not. It may not be polite, but you don't have to worry about that because it's too obvious. At the end of the day, you have to ask anyway, right?
Okay, thank you so much. Pa Chandra, you wish to comment on that?
Yes,
You seem to know something. You have an experience
like I
with
mentioned
that?
before. Yeah, I experienced it a lot. So, like I mentioned before, Japanese are very honest. So just ask them. As simple as this. Ask them, what do you think? Can you invest? Can you, say, put money on my company? Something like that.
So when they say, I think about it, it's really they're thinking about it, not like the Indonesian, I think about it means bye-bye, I don't need you.
Correct. So,
Okay.
and then, no, usually the Japanese will say, that one is already meaning that this is difficult.
Okay.
Right? Like that. Then that is difficult. They will not say yes. They will not say yes. They will not say no.
They
When
will be
they
like,
don't say yes or no, it's bad. Okay. Yeah, when they say no, it's no. That's it. It's
That's it.
straightforward. But if they say yes, then you can congratulate yourself. Then all good. Right. Very easy then. Actually, that's why very misunderstood. Actually, very good to work.
It's
with
quite
Japanese.
transparent actually.
Very
Is
transparent.
that
Very
what
good
you're
to work
saying?
with Japanese, yes.
Okay.
I really enjoy working with Japanese because they are very nice, honest people. I mean, like they will just say it to you. If they cannot do it, why?
Okay.
So you have a second chance. You can come back. Oh, because of this, actually you misunderstood. Then you can actually
Clarify.
recover it.
That's it. Okay. Irvan, do you have any experience dealing with the Japanese, or you have any aspiration to deal with the Japanese after listening to this? And how so?
Yeah, I think definitely. I think one interesting point mentioned about how startups are more flexible. I think moving to the topic about just kind of how hard these times are, and I think what's good is actually to learn a little bit from corporates and Japanese culture in that sense for startups, right? I think we've been very lucky to be having so much amount of money the last decade or so, right?
Okay.
And that has kind of made startups pretty spoiled, right?
Right.
I mean, if you think about it, right, at the end of the day, a lot of the startups are losing money because the value they're creating, nobody's actually willing to pay for that value at that total addressable market. And I think, a lot of startups now are, they always talk about agile, right? But agile also doesn't mean unplanned, right? You know, a lot of the great Japanese companies are known for innovation, right? And I think, you know, being able to learn from that is actually quite important. And I think, especially in these tough times, you know, being able to balance path to profitability with growth with your investors, I think more and more, understanding that there are proper ways to innovate. There are different ways to innovating than just throwing money at a problem, right? And I think if you look at a lot of startups, they tend to not build good foundations, whether that's as simple as HR processes. I heard this story once that, you know, even one of the big tech companies in Indonesia, they would pay their employees late because they don't have a payroll system, right, for the longest times. And if you were you know, a regular corporation, a multinational, Japanese, that would never happen because you're investing for growth, right? You have a kind of like the agile versus waterfall, right? That's always kind of, you know,
Right.
startups like, oh, we're young, you know, we're flexible, we're agile, right? But when you have a lot of money to throw at a lot of problems, yeah, that makes sense, right? But now that you have to be contribution margin positive, you have to have a clear path to profitability, right? So we as startups have to change the way we innovate.
That's pretty cool. And now I think we're entering the next segment, which thank you for bringing it up. Crisis. I don't know if can you show a couple of slides that I was asking. It's about crisis, how our President Jokowi was basically saying that 2023 may turn to be the darkest that we have ever come across. And I personally interested to know your take on that. I know Pak Chandra has been saying there's always opportunity around every corner. Please comment on that to shed some light on how do you see 2023, and is there any truth in the upcoming crisis, and how to prepare ourselves? Because as you said, Irvan, throwing money at the problem is the easiest thing to do, but you may not be able to sustain that for long. Cutting costs is just, I don't know, it's just uncreative, but maybe necessary. But what else can be done? So from the perspective of each of you, I would like to hear whether it's true we may be entering or maybe facing a darkest time ever. This is from World Economic Forum, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhat likely is what most respondents share, that we'll be entering a global recession in 2023. So how do you see? Up to you. You can, whoever wish to start first, perhaps. Since you brought it up, Irvan, perhaps you care to begin?
Yeah, so I think just in the perspective of definitely a crisis is coming, but I think, you know, Indonesia has been blessed. You know, I think we are very strong economically. I think, you know, our currency is very strong because of commodities. So I think we are in a good spot. Second,
That's good to know.
That's good to know, right? I think secondly, there is still a lot of money in the VC world. I think a lot of money has been locked up in VCs. They've raised funding before the winter, right? And so there is a lot of money. So what we have seen, at least what I've seen, is that you will have overcrowding Series A below. So if you want to raise $10 million and below, it's going to be crowded, right? You have $10 billion funds giving 500,000 checks, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
What you will see, the biggest challenge will be anything above a Series A.
Anything above that?
Anything above a Series A, anything raising above 10 million, that's when you're really going to be challenged. I think my message to startups would be, number one, like I said, throwing money at the problem is no longer the solution. Finding real value that customers truly value is something that's very important, right? And cost cutting in the perspective of, if you're still contribution margin negative, right? And sometimes you're just gonna be honest with yourself, right? A lot of startups, they tend to, you know, mix and match what variable cost is. Everybody knows what variable cost is, right? And if you're genuinely honest, the question is simple. If someone's genuinely willing to pay for the value you provide, you should have a positive contribution margin.
True.
And you don't have to scale your business until you are really sure that the value is truly there, And scaling your business is all about testing if the value is applicable for that next set of customers.
Right.
When the first customers is the one that's, they're the eager one to try. But does it apply to the mass market or not? How big is your total addressable market actually is?
So are you saying startups should take their time and to really observe and be honest, you're saying?
Yeah, 100%, right?
Okay.
Because I think the money is there in the early stages, right? We're still seeing a lot of deals early stage. But anything past Series A, you're really going to find a tough time. And the bigger VCs now, from what I've been told, is that they're going to start hitting liquidation preferences 2x, 3x, right?
Right.
In the last 5 years, you're talking about liquidation preference one time is normal, right? So they're going to want huge downside protections.
Right.
And I think a lot of founders miss that. It's like, yeah, raising money, getting high valuations looks sexy. But at the end of the day, if you cannot show a path to profitability, investors are going to have such huge downside protections that you're going to end up with nothing, right? And I think that's something for founders to really be careful about and go back to basics. And the basics is, who are my customers? What pain point am I actually solving? And if it's a big enough pain point, somebody's going to pay for it.
Right. And I'm assuming this is across the industry, across the
industry,
any
right?
kind of activity.
But that also doesn't mean you still. Startups shouldn't make money in a sense where you're still allowed to lose money, right? So you are still allowed to invest in product development, and hence you're losing money. Or once you find market product fit and you decide you want to scale the business or find a new set of customers, you want to do marketing and you lose money because of that. I think investors are still willing to do that. And like I said, there is still loads of money out there, right? I mean, VCs that are,
Right.
just when the pandemic was over, how many VCs held drinking events in Jakarta? Right? It was insane. Like we had drinking events every other day.
That's a
you
nice
know?
metric.
Exactly,
That's
right?
a really nice
you
metric.
got the Korean VCs, Chinese VCs. Everybody is here in Indonesia because Indonesia is the gateway to Southeast Asia. You cannot be a big unicorn without Indonesia. So I think we're blessed, strong economy, lots of money in the VC world, but the perspective has changed, and we as startups have to adjust.
Well, that's hopeful. Big clap for Irvan on that. Thank you so much for that insight. Mr. Global Brain, do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I totally agree. And yeah, now the market is really unstable. But yeah.
How is Japan, though, out of curiosity?
Yeah, same situation. But globally, we venture capital made a lot of fund last year or 2 years ago. So actually, we have a lot of dry powder investment capacity.
So the money, as Irvan said, is there.
Yeah,
but
for like us, early stage or middle stage VC, maybe a later stage VC or a crossover fund don't have money now. But yeah, early stage, so Series A or B is okay. And yeah, and Indonesia is one of the most important market.
Right.
So, so I'm living in Jakarta. So actually, the good startup can get funding as usual, but maybe not so good startups have tough time. And in later stage startup, and they already get funding at the high valuation, maybe it's difficult to get the new additional funding. But so the later stage startups should have some tough time, and they need to focus on survival.
I would like you to elaborate a bit on when you mentioned good startup. Are you in agreement with what Irvan is saying in terms of the definition, or you have your own metric you can share?
Yeah, the definition of good startup is really difficult, but the important thing is the same. So to create or refine good product or service.
Product that people actually need.
Yes, yes.
Okay, very good. Pak Chandra, do you wish to comment on that? Out of your portfolio, do you see anything interesting that you wish to share on how they survive this, even flourish?
Yeah, I think people are always tend to be over pessimistic and also like overconfident. So this is a case of like over pessimistic.
You should not go to either
yeah,
way.
you shouldn't be pull to either side. You have to be always remain in the middle. That's the key, actually. And then in these cases, we have to look at the cause of all the pessimisms. Number one, the world actually during the recovery of COVID actually offer optimistic. So everyone jump into investments, then create a very very high, like jump in all stock exchanges, and then after that it came down. If you look at the, for example, IHSG, right, the Indonesian Stock Exchange Index, 2019 to 2022, 2022 is actually higher than 2019.
2022 is higher than 2019.
Just Google, everyone.
Right, right.
You Google, you see. So 2022 is actually higher than 2019. So how come everyone's saying that it's going bad? If it's say 2022, the index is actually better than 2019, and then back in 2019 nobody complaining. So it's weird, right? Because in 2020 to 2021 it jumped really high because of overconfidence after the COVID recovery. Then there was another factors such as the war on Ukraine, right? And after that, then obviously the lockdown on China. And I feel everyone's like, people are affected, then eventually, of course, creating the over-pessimisms again. But if you look at these two factors, it can be easily ended. China can suddenly open up again. When they open up, then everyone will be over-pessimistic, over-confident again.
Right.
Then Russia war can
Stop anytime.
anytime.
Right.
Then what will be the problem again? Nothing then. Then the logistic situations happen
Will recover.
because of the COVID situations, right? And it will eventually slowly will be getting better. If you look at the fundamentals of the venture capitals like Ikeda-san mentions, like Irvan mentions, all the VCs have so much money. All the other VCs have so much money. So many VCs actually keep coming to us and then ask us, hey, can you share interesting portfolio? Can you help introducing to us? These are international investors from all over the world. So they are very interested, but they are very targeted. That is the key word. They are very targeted because they want to play safe as well because of the uncertainty created by so many people talking negatively around them. So they try to be more conservative by only go to selective regions. And fortunately for all of us, Southeast Asia is considered to be one of the best, or if not the best regions at this moment. Because of, like Irvan mentions, the steady growth, right? And after that, we actually benefited because the jump in oil price, meaning that the jump in CPO price. And then we, as the base of the CPO productions countries, totally benefited, right? That's why we hear the news that Indonesia actually paying back our debt, our country debts. Never happened before. Only happened 2022. How come? No, why not happening in 2019? In 2019, if I'm not mistaken, we increased our debt.
Right.
In 2022, we actually paying off our debts. Amazing. I never heard. I've been living for 42 years old. I never heard Indonesia actually paying our debts. It's actually the first time. So amazing. Congrats to our leaders, right? So
yes, indeed.
Yeah. So, but it's amazing that actually we are lowering down our debts. Why? Because of the wealth that we can accumulate. Because we actually benefited from the situations. I agree that other countries not doing well, especially the one affected by, say, China lockdown, right? So they are probably affected. But you see, we are talking about Southeast Asia as a region now. And then Southeast Asia obviously benefited. You see the travel fare fully booked. Everyone, I think, already booked their plane tickets to go to Japan for December.
So forget it. You can forget it.
Yeah, see? So I don't think that actually we are in that severe conditions. But as a startup, it's very important, like Irvan mentions, to pay attention to revenue, profit margin. Because eventually when you want to go M&A or you want to go listed, at the end of the day, then they look at the price earnings ratio. Then obviously the PE ratio need to be healthy.
Right. Right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What about you, Maeda-san?
From kind of normal companies like us, I think we have 2 points to consider. One is resource allocation. And, resource allocation under financially difficult era. And the number 2 is the importance of the rationale of the importance, I mean, the investment. So first one is, of course, if the economy is, difficult, it's affect to everybody, right? Means if I talk about my company, I have a resource allocation, so I have to win this project, right? So typically the company tends to be, of course, conservative, but still, we are not paying zero money for a startup anyway. So, but I think, if the VC has a lot of money to invest even on a difficult situation, strategic players like us tend to be a difficult position, relatively, if I hear what you're saying. But I think, from startup point of view, you have not only the VC, but also you may want to have a strategic players, right? Strategic investors. So what I would say is, it's about number two, the rationale to have a strategic player. I think you really have to deep dive about the rationale behind that. Meaning, we have strategic investors like us have rationale to invest, right? Sometimes we may want to have build a capability of technology, acquire the technology from that investment,
Right.
Or we may want to have the same, to develop our experience of a business model through that investment. So if we have the same understanding and same goal, that's going to give us a win-win situation, right? So why I'm saying is that, for example, if I talk about my company, we have like about hundreds of startup investments in the past 10 years. So we tried to review what was our performance in the past 10 years. So, we achieved our original goal, which is to acquire the technology or business model learning. But I would say not small portion of these invested experiences. I would say we could not achieve what we want to do originally.
Okay.
So
it's still good news, even though not as good as you would expect. Okay.
So I think it's really important under the difficult situation. We have to have a deeper understanding about what we want to do together.
Right.
Otherwise, it's really hard to justify the investment.
Okay. Thank you so much, Maeda-san. This is quite important. Important point of the discussion. If you have any question, you wish more clarity on that subject, especially if you're a startup, please raise your hand. Anyone? Oh, everybody's been paying attention, and I caught you off guard, right? No? Going once? Oh, I see too many hands. Okay. Going twice? All right. You don't have any question with regards to where's the money that may be in? No? No? Okay. What you need to do? Okay, fine. Last time? Last one? Okay. Okay, let's talk about building ecosystem then. That's one way to reduce risk. And by knowing who's who to trust, who to collaborate. Based on your own experience, gentlemen, would you care to comment on that, on what to be done to create alliances, perhaps, even with fellow startups or with VCs and others? Irvan, perhaps, based on your own experience?
Yeah, I think these tough times will allow us to make certain choices that if in the abundance of money comes an abundance of ego, right? So I think...
Okay, can you repeat that again?
In an abundance of money, there you will have an abundance of ego.
There you go.
Right? And it is during those times that you see a lot of companies that should maybe have merged earlier, stop competing and burning money. Because when you burn money, you hide through value, right? And sometimes because the other side's burning, I gotta burn because that person's gotta burn, right?
Right. So it's an ego issue then.
It is an ego issue, right? And I think during these times now, we're just on our personally, we're looking at collaborating with, for example, different startups in different value chains. Still in agri, for example, but different value chains. Instead of, because we don't have all the money in the world, nobody can just be, I'm going to try 10 new things. I'm going to do 10 new business models, right? Everybody kind of got to focus and hunker down on their specific pain points, their specific business models, right? So collaborating with different startups, at the end of the day, it's smarter for the founders.
Do you mind sharing that more specifically on
So
what you
let's
intend on
say-
doing, perhaps, or perhaps an invitation to those who are here?
Yeah. So let's say I'm having a business X. I have a startup X. I see my competitor. He's funded by a different set of VCs, and he's company Y, right? Normally back in the day, I'll be like, I'm going to raise so much money, I'm going to outspend you, outmarket you, and things like that, right? But for the founder, that just means more dilution. Right? Yes, my valuation goes up, but I get diluted more and the risk goes up, right? But if I'm from the beginning, I'm like, hey, look, let's actually see who can solve pain points. Let's split areas because we both need to have product market fits. Right? And then have that kind of conversation with your competitor, which before, and I hope more VCs now are more open to the idea. Right? Instead of VCs like, go kill that guy, it's more like, hey, why don't you talk to them, see what you can collaborate, see what you can learn, divide areas up, working with different players in the value chain, and working with corporates, right? I mean, a lot of corporates now want to work with startups. A lot of family offices are opening doors, working with startups, and I think we can leverage a lot of things, right? But the approach can't be, hey, corporate, I'm going to kill you one day. You can't work like that. You got to be like, hey, I got something that maybe you don't have. You have something that I don't have. You actually have assets. And at the end of the day, startups have to be asset light. So this is just a simple advice. If startups have to be asset light, what we start realizing is that startups have to look more like regular companies. You see ed tech companies buying offline training centers. You have, car marketplaces buying workshops, right? So work with people who already has a big asset base, right? And try to create...
Don't try to be one. Don't try to turn yourself into one.
Yeah, right? And you can work with them that already has a big asset base, try to create synergies and efficiencies that will benefit both of us, right? I think that is something that during these tough times, it's always been the right approach, but I think money clouds judgment, right?
Right. So instead of creating an ecosystem, we are at the risk of creating an ecosystem, because we want to show everyone that we're the biggest guy in the corner, right? But Chandra, perhaps out of your portfolio that you can share some use case where collaboration exists, even create an ecosystem?
Yeah, actually the reasons why we set up the event today along with Jethro is to get this kind of like collaborations.
Right.
So that's why we have corporations from Indonesia and Japan attending, because I'm a believer as well that you have to pay attention to your core business, right? So once you have a core business, then you have to find a way to keep your positions at the market against your competitions. And of course, the best way is to find new edge. And then to find new edge, that's why you probably should thinking about opening up to collaborate with startups, because all these brilliant startup founders actually will be able to probably put you outside from your box, because probably now you and your team are inside the box, and this is the way to provoke your team actually to think creatively about a new way actually to maintain your market positions, right? So if you look at the startups that actually invited today, the one from Japan mostly are very, very high-tech startups.
I noticed that.
Yeah,
I noticed that.
reason
Impressive.
because Indonesian corporations actually need something high-tech to help them with the going to everyday business, of course. So that's why we pre-selected carefully the 10 startups that actually very, very high-tech that probably can fill the needs of corporations from Indonesia. And while the corporations the startups from Indonesia that being invited are the leaders of startups from different industries. So meaning that Japanese corporations that attending today, you can carefully select. For example, agri-tech, then of course you have to find Irvan right here, right? So he's the brilliant person already talking to everyone here, then he's the right person to approach actually for anything related to agri-tech. But if you look for other industries, that's why we bring everyone from many, many industries to cater the needs for everyone. Okay, but the reason why we have the events today is actually to get everyone to socialize and can actually connect between corporation and corporations, or startups with startups, or startups with corporations. It's up to you guys. Okay, so feel free. Please know everyone, and please introduce yourself to the persons right beside you. Okay.
That's brilliant. Are you happy on how things evolve until this hour?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
I think it's very proper in terms of we carefully selected the guests, meaning that most of the people attending here are C-levels at their corporations, the true founders of the startups. So meaning that we can speed up the decision-making process, right? So that's why everyone here is very, very valuable and can be your next great partners. That's why please introduce yourself. We still have one more coffee break. Make a very good uses of that, at least to know everyone.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Okay. What about you? Are you happy how things evolve? Are you getting a lot from today? And are you eyeing on anyone with regards to specific startups?
Yeah, sorry, I thought his comment is like a conclusion comment. So, yeah, but anyway, yeah, I speak from the Japanese player perspective. Actually, we are Japanese VC, but we are managing 11 corporate venture capital funds of the Japanese major enterprises.
Wow, okay.
In telco, real estate, or many sectors. And all of them ask me to find good startups in Southeast Asia, especially in Indonesia.
Wow.
Because as you know, Japan is not so growing country, right?
Right.
But then Indonesia is opposite. So yeah, and the Japanese major enterprise have sometimes already have footprint in Indonesia, and they have some resource or technology or something like that. So they want to use in this growing market.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, I think this kind of event held by Indogen is really good and really good for me. Yeah, that's my comment.
Out of the scale, I'm curious. Out of the scale 0 to 10, 0, you haven't found anyone. No one has approached you. 10 is that you cannot even breathe, you cannot even drink, you cannot even go to the loo. So where are you now? 0 to 10? 0 means that you haven't found anyone. Nobody has approached you. Everybody been busy with their own gadget as now. And 10 is that you don't have enough time just to breathe, even to go to the toilet, because everybody wants to meet you. Where are you now? 0 to 10?
Yeah, certainly 10.
You're 10? Okay, that's good. That's good. You're pretty relaxed for one who is at a 10. Impressive. Give a big clap for Ikeda-san. I hope you would share the collaboration that appear after today. Okay. What about you, sir? Are you happy on how the day goes by?
I am very happy.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm just repeating my message at the initial stage, but I am not the specialist, so I'm a bit different from you guys. But maybe I'm trying to give insight from a normal company's point of view.
Right.
So I hope this helps the players in this startups industry to understand what is a typical traditional company think. And of course, the corporate culture might be different, but I still believe that there is areas of win-win situation. So don't be shy to talk to corporate when you think it's a good idea. And of course, there might be some gap, but I think over time we can fill the gap.
Excellent. Okay, we're running out of time. So I'm compelled to ask everyone as if you're talking to a startup founder, and what would you have to say to them to make use of this event? We still have one coffee break, and if not mistaken, is there going to be dinner later tonight? So how do you make use, one message probably from each and every one of you on what they can do today and what's left of today to optimize their visit, their presence here? Starting from you, perhaps, Mr. Global Brain. I like to call you that. It's so catchy. And can I have one shirt like that? I mean, okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So
So as if you're talking to one startup or to anyone to make use of their visit today
Okay, so to start up,
to the startup? Yes.
this is a startup. Yeah, so yeah, I think sometimes Japanese is really shy and
Okay.
but they or we want to collaborate with you. So yeah, let's talk and let's find the opportunity for our business collaboration. Yeah, that's my comment. So maybe you should move fast, not
Okay.
Japanese side. Yeah.
Okay. You should move. Don't wait for him to move. Okay. Okay. I hope you got that. Next, our guest. Okay, that's Maeda-san.
So I think, like me, there are many people from potential strategic players, I mean investors here. So I'm just repeating my message before, but if you think it's a good idea for you to try to get the investment from strategic players, just exchange opinion and the rationale for you as well as rationale for us. It has to be aligned. That is a very important thing. So if we don't have aligned rationale behind that, at the end of the day, both parties will not be happy. So just make sure that you will have the proper partner so that you can achieve what you want to do in the future.
Thank you so much. Irvan?
Yeah, I think definitely same message with everybody. Collaborate, meet as many people as you can. But I think for just between startup to startup, I think it is a tough time. But I think reiterating, go back to basics, understanding what are your core capabilities that you need to build. I think just going back to really understanding what it means to actually build companies and focusing on that. And I fundamentally believe if you solve a great pain point, you have a great product, money will come. Good companies will still get money.
Sense of mission, I guess. Right. Okay. Pak Chandra, last but not least.
Just want to give applause to all of you because I've been in many.
Hey.
Okay. Because I just came from Singapore, attending many conferences, and then I think I attended 4 conferences, and then none of the conferences actually have people in the audience paying attention to the sessions. So
seriously?
Yes, seriously. So meaning that really applause all of you, and you can see that every single one of the person here, it's very serious in terms of finding collaborations and then doing networking. So that's why don't waste the opportunity, okay? Because I just came from many conferences, and then everyone's just like hanging out outside the doors, and then maybe in the middle of the conferences or they left the conference, and then near the end of the conference is dead empty already. Okay, so applause to all of you, and please reach out to each single one of the person here, and then hopefully then you find the best partners possible. Okay, thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much, Pak Chandra. Thank you for your time, Bapak-bapak, Ibu-ibu, and I hope we connect more. I think I would like to quote what Irvan was saying, with the abundance of money come abundance of ego. I think that indicates that the biggest struggle is not about getting the funding, but getting the alignment from within. And I think that's the toughest part. And for that, we thank the 4 gentlemen who have been sharing their experience, their thoughts, their ideas, and hopefully something amazing will come out of this. Thank you. Without further ado, we go to the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you all the speakers. Please stay for the photo session. Cameraman ready? Okay. Thank you for all the speakers.
スピーカーの皆様、どうもありがとうございました。
give a big round of applause.
どうぞ大きな拍手をお願いいたします。